Hello and welcome. I'm James Leichter, also known as Mr. HVAC. I'm the president of Aptora. Since 1985, I've worked in the HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and appliance industries. I'm a skilled technician and installer. I'm a regular author for various magazines, including Contracting Business Magazine. I'm a public speaker, teacher, and I've served as an expert witness in the court of law for matters concerning service and management issues. I'm a consultant to hundreds of businesses, probably some just like yours. A lot of people ask us, what is flat rate pricing? Flat rate pricing is nothing new. Flat rate is simply giving the customer a firm upfront price before any work is done. This price includes parts, labor, and sales tax. It could also include discounts for service agreements or senior citizens. With time and materials, by contrast, you tell the customer what the repair will cost after the work is 100% complete. Is that fair? Most contractors already flat rate 2/3 of their work now. You might be surprised to hear that, but if you do replacement work, installation work, if you write a sales proposal, that's flat rate pricing. If you sell service agreements, they're flat rated. If your company does clean-in checks, what we call precision tune-ups, that's flat rate pricing. In fact, your service technicians are trying to flat rate now. When they go out to a customer's home, certainly they're being asked what you charge, what the repair is going to cost, and so forth, so they're trying to flat rate too. All of us have first-time callers. You know, these are people calling your company for the very first time, gathering information. They ask questions like, how much is your service call? How much is Freon? What is your hourly labor rate? Don't give them the time and material two-step. Well, we charge $35 for the show up, and it's $18.75 per quarter hour after that, plus parts if we need them. We divide the hours up in 15-minute increments. You know what I'm talking about. You see how difficult that is to explain? Time and material pricing is very difficult to explain to callers who just don't understand our industry. Callers will always compare your hourly rate to their hourly pay. Hourly rate to hourly pay. They sound a lot alike, don't they? Well, they're totally unlike one another. How can you possibly justify your labor rate to an uneducated caller? Look, you charge 5 or 6 times more than I make down at the factory. How can you people live with yourself? Well, look, they don't want to hear your story about overhead and all those other things. They just don't care. And you already know how the customer reacts to your time and material pricing. You list for them the hourly rate. Then you write down all the parts, like a motor for $125, labor for $70, a capacitor, whatever that thing is, for $5. Total charges, $200. Well, to you and I, that makes sense. In fact, $200 for a motor replacement's a total bargain. But here's what they think. They're freaked out. They don't understand. $70 for labor. You were only here 30 minutes. A motor for $125. What do you pay for those? Capacitor? Did I really need one of those capacitors? On time and material, prices are scrutinized. Every little dime is noticed. Ever ask $5 for an air filter? Then you know what I'm talking about. Time and material is inherently flawed. The faster technicians get, the less labor time they bill out. You think about that. As tools and equipment are upgraded, less labor time gets billed out. I'll give you an example. Imagine a 6 CFM vacuum pump. Why would anybody invest in a 6 CFM vacuum pump when a 2 CFM vacuum pump is going to bill out 3 times more labor? Well, at least for time and materials. There is no incentive for companies or employees to become more efficient. On time and material, the slower you are, the more you bill out. We call this the backward equation. You hire a technician and begin to spend money training him. The more you spend, the better he gets. The better he gets, the faster he gets. the faster he gets, the less money you take in on each call. Now you check out your invoices and see if you believe what we're talking about. The backward equation, there is simply no incentive for companies and employees to become more efficient. But they do anyway. You do anyway. With each gain in efficiency come a loss of profitability. As the service department grows, owners see service-related profit margins drop, and many never know why. If you're an owner and you've ever said to yourself, you know what, it doesn't seem like we make any more money now than we did when we were a small company and had 2 or 3 people, maybe that's why. I want you to think about that strongly. Let's give our callers the flat rate pricing answer. I'll give you an example. When the phone rings and someone says, "Yeah, how much do you charge an hour?" Here's your answer. Our technicians will thoroughly diagnose your system and tell you the problem for a diagnostic fee of only $69. He will then show you exactly what the repair will cost before the work starts. This is better for you because you won't be charged any more if the repair takes longer than expected. Nothing will happen without your approval. How do I spell your last name, please? Here we have an example of the flat rate book that you would print out using our software program, Flat Rate Plus. This is the motor section replacement. You can see that all of the math is done for the technician. The descriptions are detailed, properly spelled out. They simply look up the task that most closely matches the repair that they're doing and copy down the price and any other details onto their service invoice. You can see also that the safety and efficiency agreement discounts are already laid out for you. This would be your service agreement, and you can call the service agreement anything you want. Now basically everything about this page can be customized. You can subtract columns, add columns, rename columns, change the way things are laid out. You have full control over how prices are calculated, and basically everything on this page you can control. Now, once the book is used, the technician simply copies that information onto the invoice, as mentioned earlier, and presents their findings to the customer. And it might go something like this. This is what we call the flat rate presentation. Well, sir, your blower motor has failed and needs to be replaced. Your total investment is going to be just $230. That includes sales tax. Now, once I replace your fan motor, I will run the AC system and complete the rest of my diagnostic procedure. May I go ahead with the repair? Now, a couple tips here. We never say dollars unless we're talking about discounts. So if their total investment is going to be $230, we would just simply say $230. And notice my use of investment. I never say this is going to cost you $230. I would say your total investment is $230. Also, it's very important that your technicians be in the habit of saying, once I replace the so-and-so, in this case the motor, I will then complete the rest of my diagnostic procedure. That way, if something else needs to be done, like the evaporator coil needs to be cleaned, you can go ahead and price that out as well. Now, don't forget, with time and materials, you would still do all this work. You would just surprise them with a big bill at the end of the service call. And I would submit to you that many technicians will skip important work just so they don't have to deal with the hassle of presenting a large bill to the customer. Your invoice might look something like this. You spell out the work you did, in this case, replace the blower motor. You talk about the different aspects of the system that you tested. I would write down things like tested fan assembly, measured air delivery, and so forth. You wrote down the total investment. You write down the fact that it's guaranteed not to go up, that part of the repair. You recommend things like investing in the safety and efficiency agreement, and then you spell out the total fees. Notice I don't use the word total charges. Now, this client actually went up from paying $70 per hour, as we saw earlier, to $100 per hour. You might remember earlier that the time and material example we gave was $70 per hour, and the total fees were $200. Now the total investment is $230, which is $100 per hour, and that represents a 42% price increase. With flat rate pricing, it's hardly noticeable. How would you like to raise your labor rates 42% and have that not noticed? What a huge impact 42% would make on your bottom line, and I bet you deserve it. What's the customer like about flat rate pricing? A lot of things. No open-ended contract. Able to accept or decline repairs up front. No surprises. They know everything before it starts. Nothing happens unless they approve it. So there's no risk and they feel like they're in control, unlike time and material. Don't have to pay you for advice and recommendations. They sure do with time and materials. Now think about this. Have you ever noticed, if you've ran service, you'll agree with me. Have you ever noticed the customer doesn't want to talk to you until you're ready to go? So in other words, you've filled out your paperwork, you've told them how much, and you want to get out of there. Now all of a sudden they have lots of questions for you. Well, why do you think that is? That's because you charge about $1 or more a minute to talk to them. So why would they want to ask you about 16-SEER variable speed equipment or high recovery water heaters or new electrical systems upgrading to 200 amp service, whatever the case may be? Why would they want to talk to you about that for $1, $1.25 a minute? That's one of the many problems with time and material. What's the technician like about flat rating? There's a lot to like about it for a service technician. Number one, no long explanations about your hourly rate. No stopwatch. I mean, when you're a technician and you ring the doorbell and that customer shows up and looks at their watch, you know you are under the stopwatch. There's very little math involved. As we mentioned earlier, sales tax is done, discounts are figured for me. It's much easier. Sales tax is already calculated for them. How many of you spend time refiguring sales tax on a service invoice, not to mention discounts and subtotals? There's no guessing how long it may take. Now, what we mean by that is the technician is constantly asked, how long do you think that's going to take? They don't have to worry about that anymore. Painless collections and paperwork. Why painless? Because the customer already knows how much it's going to be before whatever it is done. And so when it's time to collect the money, there's no surprises. There's no hassle. Authoritative pricing. We call it blaming the book. When I'm carrying a nationally accepted pricing system, like the automotive industry uses that Chilton book, when I carry authoritative pricing, I can blame the book. It no longer looks as if I made these prices up as I went along. When your prices are black and white in a, let's call it a menu, like a menu at a restaurant, you can blame the book and the customer will be far less likely to ask where the price came from or feel like that price is negotiable. What's the boss like about all this? Well, number one, the thing I liked most about it is I sold a lot more maintenance agreements. I had fewer pricing and sales tax mistakes that my office was spending my money and time fixing. We had no more labor bidding. So in other words, people weren't calling our office saying, yeah, what do you charge per hour? And then we tell them and they hang up. Well, why did they hang up? They were calling someone else looking for a lower bid on labor. We had fewer telephone hang-ups. We were catching more of these shoppers. Now, another reason why that's so important is you're going to spend money marketing. You're going to get referrals. You're going to have people call your company. You can't afford to have these people shop you for a lower labor rate when you're spending a lot of money and energy getting that phone to ring. You're going to have higher labor rates and more profits. If your company's doing a great job and you're on time and materials, chances are you could raise your rates and have it completely accepted by your customer base. You'll have fewer complaints about pricing, and yes, that's true. One thing that really surprised me, and it surprises our clients, is that you can actually charge more and have fewer complaints. That's a fact. Finally, more replacement sales by using comparative pricing, showing the customer how much it's going to cost to repair it and how much it's going to cost if they wish to replace it. You're going to get more replacement sales. Look, if nothing else, you're going to have fewer complaints from customers who say that your technician did not give them the option of replacing it and having them regret expensive repairs. Many people who are considering flat rate pricing are concerned that maybe the flat rate book is going to be too big. Actually, that's not a problem at all. Flat rate books do not have to be large. A couple of 100 pages is usually adequate. In fact, in the summertime, you probably do just 50 basic repairs maybe 80% of the time. Same for the winter. So that's really only about 100 repairs 80% of the time. A good miscellaneous section catches the rest of those repairs, and you can always use our exclusive price builder to make your own price right on the spot. Boy, I really hate to tell you this one. As a contractor since 1985, this one's painful. I travel a lot and I take a lot of cabs. I have never once taken a cab ride for less than $100 an hour. And I have to ask you, how many of you charge more than $100 per hour? I get into a cab that's 5, 6, 7 years old, has perhaps 175 to 200,000 miles on it, and that cab driver, who's not making a lot of money, by the way, charges over $100 an hour. Why? Because he has to. That's how high his overhead is to operate that vehicle. Now compare his vehicle to your $50,000 hardware store on wheels. What makes you think you can operate a $50,000 hardware store on wheels driven by the hardest guy in the world to hire? What makes you think you can operate that vehicle for under $100 an hour? You can't. And that's one of the reasons why we flat rate, because if we try to charge properly on time and materials, the customer will never tolerate it because they will never understand the cost of doing business when you're in our business. Let's talk about what we've coined the 2-week turnaround. After 2 weeks of flat rate pricing, you will increase new customers from those first-time callers. Complaints about labor pricing will almost completely disappear. Technician pricing and mathematical errors will be greatly reduced. You can increase labor rates by 30 to 50%. Sell more service agreements with visual discounts. Sell more equipment replacements using comparative pricing. What does it cost to wait? In this example, let's pretend as if your labor rate goes up only $12 per hour. Now, we wanted to make this example extremely believable because you're going to have a hard time believing it when you see it. Let's pretend as if your labor rate only goes up $12 an hour on flat rate pricing. And let's assume that technician efficiency is 65% or 2,000 hours. So, in other words, you bill out, on average, 5.2 hours per day. That's about 26 hours per week. Here's what it's going to cost you to wait. If you're a one-truck company, you're missing out on $62 a day. If you're a one-truck company, you're missing out on $16,120 a year. So can you afford to put this off? What's worse is, how long have you been in business? How much money have you been leaving on the customer's kitchen table all these years? That's what really made me sick after going to flat rate pricing. It was so simple, so easy, that I thoroughly regretted not doing it earlier. If you're a 3-truck operation, it costs you $187 a day to wait. 5 trucks? That's about $81,120 every year that you're missing out on. Can your family afford to have you miss out on that kind of money? Why deal with Aptora? We are arguably the largest flat rate pricing company in America with thousands of systems sold. We were voted one of the top small businesses. We were voted one of the top 25 places to work in the Kansas City area, and we're very proud of that. On-site training is available by Mr. HVAC, our sister company. We have an in-house staff of computer programmers. Now, we do not farm out our programming to India or to the kid across the state or anywhere else. Our programmers are full-time, in-house. That means we have full, fast control over the quality of our software programming. We also have an in-house, full-time staff of tech support professionals. Flat Rate Plus is different. It's 100% customizable. You can change whatever you want about the program. It's made by contractors for contractors. Contracting is our background. We're one of the few companies that started out in the contracting business learning software. Most of these people are software geeks learning about contracting. Which one would you rather deal with? It's ready to use right out of the box, preloaded with all the information you need. Takes maybe an hour or two to set it up. We have renowned support. No annual fees. There's nothing else to buy. There's no royalties. The program never shuts off. We have a 10-year history, over 10-year history. You can trust us. 30-day money-back guarantee. Why don't you view the demo of the software next and see how easy it is to use Flat Rate Plus. Still confused about flat rate pricing? Unsure how flat rate pricing will help you? Please give us a call right now at 877-232-7978. It's toll-free. We have people standing by to talk to you about flat rating. We can send you information. Be sure to ask about the special offer that we're making right now.